Welcome back to Sullivan's Unheard Voices. I'm here with Nicole, who has this amazing shop in Corvallis, of all places. How did you end up in Corvallis?
Well, I lived here for, I want to say about, I lived here for about, altogether, maybe 9 years.
Yeah?
From California originally. I lived in Corvallis maybe 5 of those years, moved to Lebanon, and decided I wanted to have a store, but I thought Corvallis would be the perfect area because of the diversity and OSU.
Yeah.
So that's how I ended up in Corvallis. And it's needed a business like this here in the area.
How frustrating was it that there wasn't a business like this in the area when you were here?
Pretty frustrating actually. We usually have to drive away to Portland or Salem, sometimes even Eugene.
That's a long hike.
Yeah, it's pretty far. That's kind of what led me to opening the store. I just became frustrated, and I graduated from business school. I needed an idea. The initial idea I had was opening an indoor spa, and after doing my due diligence and all that, I realized it was not going to be possible. So,
Talk about a lot of
yeah, yeah. And so I just decided after spending so much money one day at the beauty supply store in Portland, I think I'm going to open a store
Yeah.
in Corvallis. I think our community can use it. We have enough in the community where I feel like they can get supported. Yeah, most of my customers are the students that were in State University. I've even had people come down from Eugene and shop
Nice.
here. So yeah, I think I did a good job.
I love this place. I love how you have it organized and you have everything that's sort of really easily.
Mhm.
How did you come up with the idea of getting into hair?
Well, we have some braiders in the area, and they need a lot of the hair behind me to braid into, they're called hair extensions. So that's kind of, when you open a store like this, you have to have certain kinds of hair, certain kind of products. So I knew ahead of time that's what I was going to need. So I just started buying. It took me a few months. I had to start planning, get my business plan together, check out other stores, see what they were selling, how much they were charging, what they all had in the store, and just kind of go from there.
And what was it like that first opening day?
It was amazing. I felt supported by the NAACP. The Chamber of Commerce supported me for the ribbon cutting. I felt very supported. I made an event on Facebook so people knew I was opening.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So there's a couple things I've always been curious about. So when you're talking about getting into the extension game, right? Is there a particular type of extension that you recommend over others? Do you
Oh, wow.
recommend? Yeah, I want to
There's a
know about
bunch of
hair.
different. It just depends on what you want. There's the kind of extensions I have in my hair right now. These are dreadlock extensions. The hair behind me, they're similar to what I have in my hair. Most people get the braided hair extensions. We're not sitting by it, but that's the most popular.
Okay.
For just braiding hair, you get those kind of extensions over there. Those are my biggest selling. That's my biggest selling hair, along with the Afro twist hair for twists.
Okay.
So I'm not sure if I answered your question, but there's so many, and I didn't even realize there was this many till I opened the store. I didn't know there was this many. There's a lot of them out there, yeah.
And how much hair do you need in order for an extension to sort of set? Because you
It
need a
depends.
minimum amount, right?
Yeah, it depends on how much hair you have on your head.
Mm-hmm.
The length that you're trying to go for, it varies.
Okay.
Most people get about 4 to 8 packs of hair when they come in here. It just all depends on what they're trying to do with the style. If they want to get 2 big braids down the side, if they want their entire head, and we call these individuals because they're individual braids like mine's, then you would need several packs. If you just want one big braid, you probably only need 1 pack.
Okay.
Yeah, so it just kind of depends on what you're looking for.
I appreciate that because I've always been curious,
Yeah.
Because I have a lot of friends that do that, and I just never had the opportunity or really
Yeah.
ability to ask.
Yeah.
So and then it's a lengthy process too,
Yes,
right?
it is a lengthy process.
And there's a
Depending
lot
on
of
the
pain
style.
involved too, from what I hear, right?
Not necessarily. If you have a braider that braids tight,
Yeah.
maybe. But when I got my hair done, it hurt for about a few days because my scalp was sensitive.
Mm-hmm.
So I have my hair up right now. When I first got it done, I couldn't put it up because it was pulling my real hair.
Okay.
After about a week or so, I could finally put it up because my scalp had gotten used to the hair. But it just depends on if the person's tender headed, what we call, are sensitive, or if the braider braids super tight. It just all depends.
And that's what I love about a shop like this, right? Because it's locally owned. You can come in, you can ask questions.
Yeah.
You're not taking a chance, right? You go on the internet, you're taking a chance.
Yeah, true.
You want to go local. Like how much like do you spend like with your customers like getting into like that kind of conversation?
It doesn't always happen. I do get some customers who come in and they're kind of lost.
Yeah.
They have a lot of questions. If I can't answer the questions, we have a braider that's 2, 3 doors down from me. If she's here, I'll grab her really quick. She's been so helpful. But sometimes I have it covered. I got enough knowledge to figure it out. When my son is here in the store working, he'll call me on the phone, put me on speaker, and we'll kind of walk through helping the customer like that. But yeah, you kind of know a little bit about it. And if I don't know, I always let them know I'm not sure. I'm never afraid to say I don't know. I don't want to be giving out wrong information. So,
100%. And have you felt accepted by the community?
Yeah, I think I have. I've been accepted. I've gotten a lot of customers, traveling nurses coming from out of state. They find me on Google. They're saying, "Wow, I didn't know this was here." People that have been living here that are finding me, who are moved out of state. Mostly my customers are coming from other areas, other states. And the one memory I have is a little girl coming in. She was almost in tears because she's from the South, I think Alabama, and she's like, "Oh my God, they have this, they have that." Because everyone usually goes to Sally's, and Sally's doesn't have any of this stuff. Well, some of it they do, but
not this.
Not like this.
No, let me tell you, not this. This
Not
is
like
the
this.
place.
But yeah, so yeah, I think it's good for the community. I felt very supported. It's slow now because the students are out.
Okay.
Those are my main customers that come.
So how do you get by when it gets down like that? Where
I don't. No, I'm just kidding. I'm married, so that helps. I try not to take it personal. Some days, I get kind of in my head like, is this the right choice? And I make the right decision. I keep reminding myself it will pick up. I keep telling myself the nearest store is Salem, or Eugene, or Portland. And I think, even though it's slow, I know it'll pick up one day. I just have to get the advertisement down. And people have to trust in what I have in the store and stop going on Amazon and shopping.
And it's so your place is tucked away a little bit too.
Yeah,
I'm sure
that's
it doesn't
hard.
help. Because so tell people how to find you.
I always tell people I'm where the Starbucks is at on 4th and Madison. It gets a little hard to get in here sometimes. Sometimes the front doors are locked. The Starbucks doors are always open. And I usually work kind of similar to their hours. So, but yeah, I usually tell people 4th and Madison. I'm right inside the building, which I hear used to be JCPenney. That's crazy.
That is wild.
Right? I was like, way back. It used to be JCPenney. But yeah, now I'm right in the front. I used to be in the back of the building in the other suite, so I've had to change that on Google. And I see people that walk by and they'll look in and like, is this it or is it down there? And then they'll come back and like, it's definitely here because my other store is empty now. So yeah, but I'm right here. I'm right downtown. It's a good spot. It's just inside.
Yeah.
And I'm working on getting signage for outside.
Is that kind of a process?
Yeah, I have the signs. I just don't have the thing that goes on the front of the sign. Like, I guess they're called sandwich boards.
Yeah.
So I need to get the printed out thing to go on the board.
Gotcha. Yeah. So what's a typical day like?
Pretty simple. It's pretty slow right now. I usually come in, I turn my sign on, I light my candle to get it smelling nice in here.
Music's
I turn on Power 106, which is a radio station from back home. I'm from California, from Long Beach, California. So I'll turn that on. I'll keep it kind of low. Turn my fans on to get some air circulating in here. Get the register set up. I mean, kind of like a normal place that opens, I always speak when someone walks in. Yeah, make sure I acknowledge the people that come in.
I always want to converse about why it's so important to go local.
It is important. It's important to support the community so that we can stay in business. Without the community, I can't stay in business, and I want to be able to be there for people who have ethnic hair, people who have curly hair, people with alopecia, cancer people that have lost their hair. or just someone who wants a nice, different hairstyle, like a wig or something. I want to be able to do this for people, so without them supporting me, I can't pay the rent in space, and I can't order more product because that's kind of how I support the place. I haven't gotten any loans saved up and spent over time just to build inventory.
That's wild that you haven't been able to get any loans.
It's mostly my fault. My credit is not great. I've been working on it. I have had some support from a lot of agencies who have told me what I need to do to get there. So it's not like they don't want to help. It's just that they can't right now because I'm not where I need to be. But yeah, I'm working on it.
And then, so if you have somebody so a friend of mine wanted to know, because some of your spots some of the product that you have is real hair, right?
Yeah.
And so if somebody has real hair and they're going to go in and get them all chopped off.
Now that I don't know. That is a really good question. I have no idea. My hair comes already packaged. I don't accept hair from people that just bring it in like that. But that's it. Now I'm intrigued by that. I may have to look into that. But I have no idea. I would probably start calling around and seeing who takes hair. Lock of Love, I think, is a company. I'm not familiar with it, but I think I've heard of Lock of Love or something like that. Yeah.
And so, what's life like in these days?
I love Corvallis. My kids all go to school out here. A lot of my close friends I met in here. I do live in Lebanon, but everything I do is in Corvallis. I would have stayed in Corvallis if I could have afforded a house here, but that was just not possible. I'm sure
Tell
you
me
know.
about it. Yes.
It's not even possible to afford an apartment these days. So that's what led us to Lebanon. I feel very accepted. We have a Facebook group called Black Corvallis for Black individuals, African Americans, Africans, people who identify as Black. For folks that are not Black, who may have a spouse or a partner who's Black, or a white person raising a Black child, we have a group called Corvallis Mix. It's
That's
like our
awesome.
sister group to Black Corvallis, because a lot of people were trying to join the group when the Black Lives Matter movement started, and they weren't Black, but they wanted to support.
Who wanted to be an ally?
Yeah, and I wanted to be able to provide a safe space for Black folks as well as people who wanted, like our allies. So that's what made me create the other group.
How did you get that started? Because that's an amazing thing. About a year ago, I started a support group for adults on the autism spectrum.
Yeah.
And now we have every Thursday we meet, and there's 40 of us that meet every Thursday.
Yeah.
And I'm just curious, what prompted the start of that Facebook group? Because that's an awesome idea.
So when I first moved here from California, I started out in Gresham.
Uh-huh.
I was there for almost a year, and then right before we got to Corvallis, we started applying for a bunch of apartments, low-income housing. Corvallis was one of the cities that contacted us. That's what led us here.
Okay.
And we were able to get a 4-bedroom townhome for $900 a month in Corvallis. So
that's unheard of.
Yeah. When I got here, however, I couldn't find any Black people. So I was getting a little worried. I don't have a problem not being around a lot of Black people, but I have children.
Yeah.
It's important that they see some representation.
Oh, 100%.
So I just decided to make a group. And every time I saw a Black person, I would tell them about the group. And now we have over 300 people in the group.
That's
Just
awesome.
grew. It's been 6 years, so it grew over time. Yeah.
And I would like to take a moment to talk about allyship too, because I think it's important. Because one of the conversations I always have with people is what to do in certain situations, right?
Yeah.
When you see overt racism as an ally, stand up and say something.
Yeah.
Please.
You do have to choose your battles. You
Mm-hmm.
definitely don't want to get too angry. It might make you boil, but you want to keep calm. I did have a man come in here and kind of look around, and he was like, "Are you sure this was a good idea? This is right when I first opened. I didn't tell you about that." And I just kind of looked at him like, did he really come in here and take this time out of his day to... But, it made me wonder, is this the right thing? And then after I started having more customers, I realized it was. But you kind of have those moments like that where people may come in and just make you not want to feel like you belong.
That's so
And
terrible.
I live in Lebanon, so I've felt that before, blatantly in Lebanon. But, what can you do, right?
When I grew up, my brother looks like my dad, who's Native American. I look like my mom, and I'll never forget how vastly different our experiences were.
Yeah.
And people don't understand that racism is still alive and well today.
Yes, it's pretty bad.
It's just, I don't understand it though. Like I guess what I'm saying is I don't understand why people spend so much time focusing on that aspect
Yeah,
when there's so much love and kindness in this world. And it's so much easier, in my opinion,
it is.
to be kind and be
I
friendly.
agree. What a boring world it would be if we all looked the same.
I know.
I'll never understand it. I come from a place where there's everybody, so I'm used to seeing everyone. Even when I went back home a month ago, it was hard finding a white person. I just saw black people, Asian people, Mexican people. I was like, where's all my white friends? I had to go to certain areas, but that was coming from out of Oregon. That was like the opposite experience.
Oh, interesting.
So it was very interesting. And then there was a hair place on every corner.
Yeah.
Like mine. Every corner, there was a hair place. So yeah, it's way different. Way different.
And how long ago did you go back?
Oh, that was about a month ago.
Okay.
Yeah, I went back for a wedding. I was there for a few days. I was ready to come back to Oregon, honestly. I was tired of the traffic, I just wanted to come back. I love Oregon, I will say that.
You and me both. I've been to so many places, and I have, oddly enough, Kaiser, Oregon has been more accepting of me than any other place in the
That's
planet.
a cute town. Yeah,
It's strange. I would not have thought that.
Wow.
But it's the first place that I've been able to be openly autistic and not have to hide it.
Yeah.
It's such a unique experience.
That's great.
And so when you come back here then and you have this sort of sense of community, like do you all have like hangouts? Do you like meet up?
Yeah, we do actually. Like I was saying earlier, the NAACP is a huge part of our community. And we try to host, we've been kind of slacking on it. The last event we had was back in April. And it was in Lebanon, believe it or not. We try to toggle between the three towns, Albany, Corvallis, and Lebanon. Even though the group's called Black Corvallis, it's not just for Corvallis. That it just became that because I lived there when I made the group. But it is for anyone that's within like 100 miles of us that's willing to travel. Because there's a Black Portland group. That's kind of where I stole the name from Portland. So we have they're not affiliated with us, but I am in that group too. Okay. And we try to have meetups every other month. I'll make a post in Corvallis Mixed and Black Corvallis, and we'll just try to get the kids together, have a community event, do the electric slide, dancing. Yeah, anyone's invited, Yeah.
And what kind of things you say dancing?
Electric slide.
That's awesome.
Just play music and then people get up and dance. Like in Lebanon, we have people bring yard games.
Yeah.
We rented out Santium. What's it called? Santium Place, I believe that's what it's called.
Okay. Yeah.
And it was my son's 18th birthday too, so it was kind of a dual event. So I was like, I'm gonna have a birthday party for him and make it feel like he's back home.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of how I am back home. I used to have all these parties and my family and my friends would come, so it kind of felt like home for a moment.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So if people are out here listening and they have an interest in joining that group, you just go to Facebook and search for Black Corvallis.
Yeah, Black Corvallis or Corvallis Mix.
That's odd. How many people come to these?
Oh, we always have at least 40 or more people.
That's awesome.
Yeah, the biggest one we had was last year in September. If you go on the Black Corvallis page, the background photo is all the people. Well, not even all. Some of them are missing, but I think it was about 70 people in that picture. It was the biggest event. We even had the mayor from Albany, Alex.
That's awesome.
He was there. Jason Dorsett and NAACP was there. So we get people that are, I call them bigwigs. We have people that of status come to these events to support, which is very helpful.
And they come to support and you feel supported as opposed to like my experience in Seattle where politicians would come and you would know they're just doing this for their own political gain.
Wow, yeah, it's not quite like that. It's definitely a family affair.
That's beautiful.
You feel, and you see the same people at all the events, so you get a relationship with them. We have the Juneteenth event every June 19th every year. I think the last couple of years it's been in Albany. Well, I think the last year was in Corvallis, and this year was just in Albany, but it's always the same people. And some of the people you don't see but once a year at the events, but you still see them at the events, so yeah.
It gives you a sense of community and belonging.
Mm-hmm. You watch the kids grow up too, the kids age and grow up.
That's awesome. Because like one of the things that we struggled with in Snohomish, Washington, when we grew up, is we didn't have any cultural representation.
Oh, sad. Yeah.
And there was no sense of community, no sense of culture there.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I hear like things like this, it's just that's beautiful.
Yeah, yeah.
Like that needs to be like copied in other places because
Yeah, it's important. Awesome. It's important. It's definitely needed in this area because there's not very many Black people here. And if this was obviously a Portland or somewhere else, I probably wouldn't need to do this. But well, maybe Portland also. There's not very many Black folks there. I think they're kind of grouped in one area. But yeah, other areas you don't have to.
Like geographically, sort of, is that part of like gentrification or whatever?
I don't know much about Portland. It's possible.
Yeah.
When I moved to Gresham, I also didn't see any Black people at all. That's very close to Portland. It was until my son at the time, he was almost 4, he went to school in a preschool on Alberta, I think it was. Mm-hmm. And that's where all the Black people were. I was like, oh, his teachers are Black. Most of the class was Black. Now, this was a shocker. Even coming from Long Beach, we've never seen an all-Black class, Black teachers. That was very shocking. I was like, oh, there's 2 white kids in the class, maybe a few Mexican kids, but all the Black people were just in that area on Martin Luther King, all in that area. So yeah, maybe. Yeah, I think so.
Which is kind of it's one of those things where it's I don't know. I wish society had progressed a little bit farther than it has.
Yeah,
today.
Yeah.
Because you see like things like that, and it's because of that dominant culture that has made decisions along the way. Mm-hmm. And for anybody who talks crap about the non-existence of systemic oppression, you're full of crap. Because no, that is a thing. It still exists, and we need to figure out a way to come together to get around it.
Very much.
It's just, if you can tell, it makes my blood boil.
You're pretty passionate about it. I appreciate that. You're very passionate about it, which is what we need. We need our allies. We need our support. We can't do it by ourselves.
So what's next?
I hope what's next is actually having a storefront, but I don't foresee that happening probably not anytime soon. With the rent out here in Corvallis, it's not possible for me right now. Yeah, and there's friends are always sending me, oh, look at this. I'm like, yeah, I see the places. I just can't afford the places, There's all kinds of shops across the street that are perfectly visible for me. Yeah. But it's just not possible.
Almost triple the rent, I would imagine, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Probably 4 times the rent. Without utilities included. So, wild. It is.
Do you think we'll ever get back to a time where things are affordable? Or are we just kind of...
The last time it was affordable was during COVID. That's when I purchased my home.
Yeah.
My home is now probably worth $100,000 more than it was.
Yeah.
Just 4 years ago. But I think so. I think it's going to take some time.
I think it's going to take interest rates to go down.
Yes, it's going to take some time.
Because I remember when we bought a house, and the interest rates were like 2.25. Now that they're 7%, that's like double the mortgage for the same house. Like how?
People are not. There's a lot of homelessness. I see it all the time on Facebook. People asking, with whole families asking to rent a room. A room is going for $800. Remember I told you my townhome was $900 a few years back in Corvallis. Now granted, that was a low-income housing unit, but it still was an entire house. Yeah. And people were having to pay $800 for a room. And you have to share with a house. You have to share with people you don't know. So yeah, it's getting kind of crazy out there. The prices out here are like they are back home when we came from.
That's wild.
Yeah, it's very bad.
And for some strange reason, rents are going down in Salem.
Are they?
Yeah.
Oh.
I think that's because they built almost 1,000 units have come online, and with the state closing down and allowing people to remote work. Nobody's living there, and so rents are...
I didn't know that about Salem. I've always thought Salem was a cute town to live in.
It has its problems.
Yeah.
It has its problems. The homelessness crisis there is awful. Like there are areas where it's just like hundreds and thousands of people living in tenants,
It's insane.
and it breaks my heart to see.
Yeah.
But they don't know what the solution is.
It's just become not affordable for anyone, and everyone assumes that homeless people are just on drugs. That's not the case.
No.
They're not all on drugs or have mental illness. Some people just can't afford it. They're living in their cars and doing what they have to do.
And we're all basically one medical procedure away from being bankrupt.
Yeah. I do like that Lebanon offers, I don't know if any other town does, Lebanon offers free washing of your clothes on Wednesdays for the homeless folks.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, so they get to wash their clothes for free. They're probably going to get more people now if anyone hears this, but I think that's great for anyone that needs assistance with their clothes getting clean.
Yeah, and I know the state also provides vouchers for laundromats.
Oh, wow, I didn't know that. That's great.
If you apply for benefits through the state, they can do that as well. It's just not enough.
No. Yeah.
It's not enough. And there's no place for people to go. I think that's what people don't understand. It's like there's no place. Like
it's just not affordable. They keep building, but they keep charging up here for the rent.
And it's weird the unintended consequence that I've seen with because they passed that rent control.
Yeah.
But now what I'm starting to see is that everybody is bumping up the rents as max as they can. Whereas before that passed, a lot of people would just stay flat. Now it's like, well, we have permission to expand it $100 every year.
Yeah,
we're going to do
that. They don't have to, but they're just going to. I say buy if you can. This is really a bad time to buy a home. Manufactured homes, though, they may lose value, but they're nice. They're nice and they're a bit more affordable. And I always tell people, you don't have to stay in a home forever. It could be your first home. It could be your first home, or and then you could sell it or rent it out. But the mortgage, like I won't say how much my mortgage is, but I see people paying what I pay for a house for a 2-bedroom apartment.
Yeah.
It's just ridiculous.
I pay more for my apartment than I did for my mortgage. Yeah.
Wow.
And then my apartment is not 3,000 square feet.
Wow.
So
That's crazy.
Even though rents have come down,
they're not coming down enough. They're not coming down quite enough.
It still takes
my
half my
son
paycheck.
Is 18 and wants to move out, and I'm like, son, he's lucky he has us because he's trying to get into these places. I'm like, no. That's literally a closet with a bed in it for $900. No. You can't fit anything in there. So yeah, I feel so bad for folks that don't own right now. It's awful. You're basically paying someone else's mortgage and you're not getting anything out of that. It's too bad.
And it ties back to that conversation of local too, right? Like most people that own the rental companies are not the local folks.
Right.
It's multinational corporations that do the rental stuff. And it's like, that's scary because then they have no vested interest in the community. They have no vested interest in the people that live there. And so like the apartments suffer, the people living in the apartments suffer, and it's just all of that instead of having pathways for people to get into local.
Right, and then there's a lot of scams going on as well.
Oh,
so
I know.
You gotta be careful about too.
That's a big one. I didn't even think about that.
There's a lot of it going around. People are kind of smart enough to realize when it's too good to be true, it usually means it is. But the elderly are very vulnerable to scams. Young people are as well. So yeah, some people don't always know it's a scam.
Yeah, and I wouldn't even thought about that.
Yep. Or people charging for rental application fees when the place is rented or not available just to collect. I hear it doesn't cost anything to run a background or your application, or if it's like $10, but they charge you $50 an application. It adds up.
Here's the thing, and I don't know if people know this, but you can get a subscription to Intellius.com for like $10 a month and run as many background checks.
And that's probably what they're doing, and they're just collecting the money.
Just collecting the fees.
If you have like 5 or 6 people at $50, that's $300.
Yeah.
And you're just like allowing people to keep submitting. You can make a whole bunch of money just off application fees.
I hadn't even thought about that.
It's pretty
Even
wild.
if you don't have any apartments available, you could just say, oh yeah, you can apply. Oh, you can apply.
I've seen people go take pictures of empty houses pretending they're the landlords and charging people rent or application fees for that. And it's not even their home.
Wow, it was a thing.
Yeah, they're getting more creative by the moment.
That's interesting. Well, we've been at it for almost an hour.
They're pretty easy to talk to. And I told you I have an 8-year-old that has autism too, so
Yeah.
I'm excited for when she becomes an adult. Hopefully your program is still around.
Oh, it will be.
Yeah, because I've been looking into, this is completely off topic, but I've been thinking about her future, even though she's only 8. The reality is she will have to probably live with us she's not high functioning like you are.
Yeah.
So I've looked into Portland. I know they have like a day program where she can stay there in the day, come home with us, or live there. So I've already been looking. I'm looking for resources for her.
And a good place to start to is the Autism Society.
I love them. Yeah.
Have you taken advantage of the Take a
No.
Breather program?
You told me about it when we first met, and I didn't even know that existed.
Yeah.
So I need to look on their website a lot more.
Yeah. So they basically have a program where if you just send them an email or fill out the application, it takes 2 seconds, and they'll cut you a check for a couple $100. So you can have a night out on your own. You can afford a babysitter.
Oh, got you. Okay.
So that it's their way of saying, have a night out.
That's awesome.
Yeah. No strings attached.
That's
one
awesome.
of the coolest things they do.
That's the one thing I miss about living in Portland. There's so many more resources out that way for kids with autism. When you go into the children's hospital, the floor is full of autism resources, and they're all for Portland in that area. And I'm always like, oh, we need something for kids over here. We need something local. Yeah, but maybe one day.
It's tough because of the way the funding is structured. And it wasn't, so I don't know if you know or not, but like research funding for autism wasn't even approved until like 2 years ago.
Oh, wow.
All of the research was on prevention and cure, and none of the money they were spending was on how to make our lives better, how to lessen our symptoms, how to like prepare us for adulthood. All of that was not even a part of the conversation until recently.
Okay.
And so you're starting to see organizations like the University of Washington, OHSU, just start finally getting to those research programs and starting to figure out like how we can help people as opposed to just, because the cure isn't going to help people that are already
right. Exactly.
Like, don't talk to me about a cure. Like, talk to me about how we can exist.
How can we live with a cure?
Do you mind if I ask a little about that?
Yeah, go for it.
So how old was she when you realized that she was on the spectrum?
She was about, when I started noticing she was different, was about 1 year old. She just wasn't looking at me. Her facial expressions were very vague. Eye contact, wouldn't respond to her name. So at first we thought she had hearing loss.
Yeah.
And she's a twin. So we would say, Rain, her name is Rain. Her sister's name is River. River would look because we're like, Rain, Rain, and she just wouldn't turn. And at about 2, she was not talking. His sister was talking. But she was more advanced in other areas, physical.
Yeah.
She was crawling, doing stuff that a twin couldn't do. So we were like, And then they were already enrolled in early intervention because they were born at 24 weeks.
Okay.
So they were premature. And I told them, I believe something's wrong. I started looking up symptoms. Autism came up. I never heard of autism until about 7 years ago. I never even knew what it was. And I said, I think she has autism. Everything I'm reading, it describes my child. And they were like, well, let's wait till she's about 3 or 4. I said, no. No, we're not going to wait. I have 5 other kids.
Yeah.
Or 4 at the time. 4 other kids. I know something's off. I don't want to say something's wrong with her, but I was like, she's not a typical child. I see her around other kids. She's climbing on babies, pulling bottles out of their mouths. These are things that a typical 2-year-old wouldn't do.
Yeah.
And we got the diagnosis. She was a little under 3. Got the educational diagnosis as well.
That's a big one. A lot of people don't understand that you need both.
You do. You have to have both. And once you get both, you get all kinds of things you can get from the state. But yeah, we had her assessed at CDRC in Eugene. They took about 2-3 hours with her, and they were like, yeah, she has autism. So I was like, yeah, I knew it. And when she was born, she had a brain bleed. So they think that might have had something to do with her autism. But we really don't know.
Yeah, it's one of those strange things where nobody really understands exactly where it comes from. And I think a lot of people don't understand, too, that the sacrifices and how much that you as a parent have to put out there when you have a child with special needs.
It's a lot of work.
But when I hear parents that do what you've done and go the extra mile and say, no, we're going to get this figured out, that's a beautiful thing in my
Yeah, you
ears.
kind of have to stick up for yourself, because if you say, okay, I'll wait, no, we're not waiting. Like, I know my child better than anyone, and I know that there's something going on. I need it to get fixed, or not fixed, but I need it to get addressed. Yeah, they listen. So,
and if you're a parent listening to this, advocate for your child.
You have to
advocate for your child.
And sometimes it takes getting some other people involved to help with that.
Yeah, because it takes a village.
It does.
It really does take a village to raise an autistic child.
Or any child for that matter.
That's fair. That is 100% true.
Especially an autistic child. She's a little spitfire.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. Maybe I'm sure you'll meet her someday.
I would like that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, thank you very much, Nicole.
Well, thank you for having me. This
was
great.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
All right.